Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Well, it's the end of the week again, which means it's time to chat about how the market has changed. Now, before we get into the actual market update and forecast, there are quite a lot of you who think that with these videos, I am training the competition. So to address this, and I have to address this at this point, this channel is meant to help people make better decisions in their business. It's meant to stop people from panicking and booking those crap rates, which also affects the market to some degree. And while I do appreciate that some of you are giving me so much power and saying that I am the reason the market is so bad, I'm afraid that I'm actually not that powerful, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and chat about volumes, capacity, rejections, spot to contract rates and diesel prices, and then we'll go into specifics for dry vans, reefers, and flatbeds on the spot market and how the market has changed week over week. Ready? Let's go! All right, so as always, we're going to start with the net change in carrier population, where we count how many MC numbers, active carriers, went out of business compared to how many went in. So as of last week, we lost an additional 96 carriers net, which is not a lot, but it's still a negative number. Now, someone wanted me to go back to doing the spot to contract spread so that you can see what the contract market is paying. So this blue line, the dark blue, is us in 2024. Light blue is 2023. So currently, those contract carriers are earning on average 61 cents per mile more than those spot carriers. And if we take a look at this chart, we can see that slowly but surely the gap between the spot market and contract market has been getting smaller. All right, what about the general freight volume? Well, here we have the blue line, which is 2023, white line 2024. So we can see that volumes went down quite a bit right here, if you can see that. And that is because of Memorial Day, which is normal. You can see the same thing happened in 2023, but the volume went down much more than in 2024. So volume-wise, we're still okay. The question is, what is happening with those rejection levels? So when it comes to rejections, again, white is us in 2024 and blue is 2023. We can see rejections, they kind of skyrocketed in the beginning of May, and they're much higher than the same time in 2023. They did start going down a little bit right now, and this also might have something to do with Memorial Day. Currently, rejections are at an average of 4.81%. Finally, we have our diesel prices. Diesel prices have been doing relatively well. They have been going down week over week, and currently the average diesel price is $3.90 per gallon in the United States on average. So hopefully this continues going down. But now let's talk about specifics, starting with dry vans. So first, let's take a look at spot market data for dry vans. All of this data is based on FTR. I just make it into a table. Last week, the rate per mile on average for dry vans was $1.94 per mile. This week, it's a 4-cent increase to $1.98 per mile. Now, year over year, if we're comparing this week to the same time last year, rates are down 2%. And over 5 years, rates are down 9% for dry vans. Volumes week over week decreased by 4% from last week, Memorial Day. Volumes year over year decreased also about 4%. And then over 5 years, volumes for dry vans are actually down 20%. So the next question is, what are the better markets for dry vans? As always, we have our two charts by Sonar, the rejection rates and the general freight volumes for dry vans. So first, let's start with the general freight volumes and see where there is more product going out. Number one, we have Dallas, Texas. Number two, Atlanta, Georgia. Number three, Ontario, California. Number four, Houston, Texas. And number five is Los Angeles, California. These are the 5 market areas where there is relatively more freight for dry vans going out. This is not the spot market. This is the general market. Now let's take a look at rejections. So in terms of rejections, the market changed a little bit. The top 5 for dry vans is number 1, Charleston, West Virginia, where it's 16% rejection. Number 2 is North Platte, Nebraska, 14% rejection. Jacksonville, Florida, where it's 13% rejection. Then we have Tallahassee, Florida, where it's 12.5% rejection, and Roanoke, Virginia, where it's 12% rejection. Now, before you guys go after me and say, how can you say Florida? It's such a bad market. I understand that. I'm not talking about the best markets here. In terms of the best markets and the way we look at them is where are the markets where more of that contract freight is hitting the spot market, therefore increasing spot market volume. Number 1 here would be Atlanta, Georgia for dry vans. Number 2, Ontario, California, followed by Los Angeles, California on 3rd place. Number 4 is Memphis, Tennessee, and finally Dallas, Texas. These are the market areas where there is more volume hitting the spot market, because volumes and rejections taken together from the contract side create a situation where there is just more volume hitting the spot market, right? All right, now let's take a look at reefers. So again, same table for reefers based on FTR Intel's data. Rate per mile last week was $2.47 on average. This week, it's a 3-cent increase to $2.50 on average. The rate year over year is actually up by 1.4% if we're comparing this week to the same time last year. Now, over 5 years, the rates are down 4%. Volumes week over week are down 5.6% for reefers Memorial Day. Year over year down 3%, and over 5 years down 26%. So same map for reefers. Let's start with the volumes. Where are there more volumes going out for those reefer trailers in the general market? Number 1 is Allentown, Pennsylvania. Then we have Joplin, Missouri, Lakeland, Florida, Ontario, California, and finally Joliet, Illinois. Now, if we want to see where the rejections are the highest, number 1 is Ontario, California, right here, where it's 33%. And actually, Los Angeles, California is also 33%. Memphis, Tennessee is at around 24%. Then we have Quincy, Illinois, which is around 22%. And Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which is at 21%, looking at the computer over there. But this doesn't mean those are the best market areas. Where does more volume hit the spot market from the contract market? Number 1, we have Ontario, California, then Los Angeles, California, then Fresno, California, followed by Joplin, Missouri, and finally Atlanta, Georgia for reefers. All right, finally, let's talk about flatbeds. Again, on the spot market last week, the average rate per mile was $2.45 for flatbeds, and it's pretty much the same this week. No change whatsoever. Now, rate year over year is actually down 6.6%, and over 5 years down 7.5%. Now, oh, you can't see that. There we go. Now, in terms of the volumes, week over week, volumes are down 4%, and year over year down 1%, which is actually not bad. Now, over 5 years, flatbed volumes are down by 29%. So now in terms of the better areas to go, unfortunately, Sonar doesn't make those cool maps, so I make my own, and we're just going to look at the load to truck ratio map for now. So anything red, any red state means that there is less than a load per truck for the flatbed, which means that it's over capacity. Something to note is that this is by states, because I use truck stop data. This is by states, which means that there might be certain markets within these states that are better, right? But in general, a lot of red here. Now, in terms of the beige, these are about 1 load per truck. Texas is finally about 1 load per truck for flatbeds. Oklahoma is actually about 2 loads per truck. So it got slightly better. And over 3 loads per truck is Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama. Mississippi has something like 9 loads per truck. It is by far the best market for flatbeds. So now I want to show you a screen recording of the spot market, the load board. And I'm using a reefer as an example here. from the Ontario, California market, which is by far one of the best markets right now. I want to show the mistake that is being made by a lot of people right now when they get into a good market and they're so hungry for a good paying load that they book the highest rate per mile or the highest gross, regardless of where the load goes. I will show you that in this kind of market, sometimes it's better to settle for a little bit less because consistency is more important than getting a high price once. So for example, you are in Ontario, California, which happens to be a really good market, relatively speaking, for reefers. And you can see the rates per mile here. This is filtered by the highest rate to the lowest rate. And you can see that long loads pay pretty well for reefers, right? So let's say that you decide that you're going to book the highest paying load on the load board. Forget the rate per mile, although the rate per mile is the highest from all of these. Okay, to New Jersey. Now, this is a great rate per mile, right? Relatively speaking, this is a good gross, relatively speaking. But once you get to New Jersey, again, reefer, this is what you're faced with, right? So now the long loads pay $1.30 some cents. Okay, let's filter by rate per mile. And let's say that you're one of those carriers who doesn't want to book short hauls like this, which pay less than $1,000. Okay, we have this great rate, $5.38 per mile to Hatfield, Massachusetts. Well, let's take a look at what's in Hatfield, Massachusetts. Here we go. So, I mean, this is ridiculous. My goodness. So I know you can't see it, but there are 23 loads here, and these are the only posted rates you can see. Okay, not a bad rate per mile. Let's say that you decide to bite the bullet and you're going to go to Pennsylvania right here. Well, let's take a look at where you end up. Well, this is where you end up. Okay, it's filtered by rate per mile, but these are short runs. Let's see what the long loads pay. Oops, you're in the same situation that you were in when you were in New Jersey because it's super close. So you can see, to go back to California where it pays decent, or at least the surrounding area like Nevada or Oregon, you're going to be getting $1.37, $1.14. Look at this weight. The weight is insane. To Vegas, $1.10 for a full truckload. So yeah, sometimes maybe it's not the best idea to book the highest paying load on the load board. You have to be aware of the market because these high paying loads pay this much for a reason, right? So the point of today's video was not just to go through the market data, yada, yada. No, it was to show you that there are some decent markets for all three equipment types. The problem is that the market is so inconsistent and the good markets are so few and far between that finding consistently good paying freight is a challenge. So, time to train my competition. If you want to give yourself the best shot at surviving this downturn, this current downturn, when booking freight, don't jump right away at the highest rate per mile or the highest gross. Because many times this high gross or rate per mile is going to bring you to such a market where you're going to end up losing everything that you earned on the load before, trying to get out. Booking consistently all right freight is much better than booking an amazing load once and then struggling to get back to a market where there are those manageable loads. And I speak from experience here because there have been times where the rate per mile or the gross was so absolutely fantastic to Colorado or Montana that I couldn't resist. And after that, every single time I spent around a week trying to get out of those bad markets, and I ended up losing everything I thought I earned on that one load going to the bad market. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week and weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. And I'll see you in the next video.